Up next, the West Fargo Police Department is investigating a crash after a teen was hit while riding his bike. And multiple people have died between two different crashes that happened this weekend. Plus, a father and son gets the support from the community as the pair each take on their own medical battles. Valley News Live at 10 starts now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
Tonight, we're learning the West Fargo Police Department is investigating a crash involving a teen who was hit by a vehicle while riding his bike near the Cashwise grocery store. Police say the crash happened around 4:30 this evening on 33rd Avenue East. The victim is a 14-year-old boy who has suffered serious injuries. Police previously asked for the community's help with identifying him, but his family was later located. Anyone with information regarding the crash is asked to contact the Red River Regional Dispatch. That number is on your screen. And a vehicle overturned this evening near the 12th Avenue North Bridge after the driver lost control. Authorities say the driver was operating at a high rate of speed when they lost control, causing the vehicle to roll over. The vehicle then crashed into an apartment building, causing the second and third floor balconies to collapse. The driver and a passenger were taken to a local hospital. Their injuries are unknown at this time. Early this morning, seven different agencies responded to a head-on collision on Interstate 29 that left 2 dead and 3 seriously injured. The crash happened about 7 miles south of Fargo. According to the report, both vehicles collided in a construction zone after an SUV crossed the center line before striking another SUV. A 65-year-old man from Moorhead and a 27-year-old man from Fargo both died in the crash. And 2 people were also killed in a multi-vehicle crash near Hunter, North Dakota. The accident occurred yesterday afternoon along Highway 18. Law enforcement say an SUV was waiting to make a left turn into a private driveway when it was hit from behind by another SUV. The impact pushed the waiting vehicle into a car coming in the opposite direction, causing a head-on collision. Both the driver and passenger of the car died in the crash. A woman and 2 juvenile passengers involved in the accident were also hurt. 1 person was injured after a semi and a car collided in Mentor, Minnesota, which is about 25 miles away from Crookston. Authorities say this afternoon both vehicles were driving west on Highway 2 when they crashed near County Road 12. The driver of the car was taken to Crookston Hospital for treatment, while the driver of the semi was unharmed. Yesterday, a train derailment killed 3 and injured dozens in Montana. The passenger train carrying approximately 141 passengers and 16 crew members derailed in northern Montana. According to officials, 3 were killed and at least 30 people, including passengers and crew, were among those injured. According to Amtrak, it was heading from Chicago to Seattle when 8 of the train's 10 cars derailed. There is still no official word on what caused the accident, but a 14-member team from the NTSB will be launching an investigation. Funeral services for Gabi Potito were held today in New York. The services were open to the public for several hours, and long lines formed outside of the funeral home with those anxious to pay their respects. More than 100 firefighters were also in attendance to support Potito's stepfather, who is also a fireman. Her father, Joseph, spoke at the services and told everybody not to be sad because Gabi didn't live that way.
I'm asking that you guys be inspired by the way she treated people, all people. Love knows no gender. Love knows no bounds. She didn't care. She genuinely loved people. It didn't matter. So when you leave here today, be inspired by what she brought to the table.
The 22-year-old's remains were found in a Wyoming national park last weekend. She and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, who is also a person of interest in her death, had gone on a cross-country trip in August, but only Brian returned home on September 1st. Her family reported her missing 10 days later. Laundrie has since gone missing. A father and son are each fighting their own medical battles, and communities are coming together to help the pair in their time of need. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling shares more from the father and son, who both say they are grateful for the support.
The Cassette family saw a community come together today to raise support. The father, Brandon, is facing a battle against lymphoma, while his son, Huxon, is 5 months old and has had heart surgery.
He's a tough fighter too. He's just like his dad. So, I mean, it'll be pretty cool to be able to tell him all the people that stepped up and tell him kind of all about this whole process and how tough he is and how tough his dad is and how many people just touched our lives.
Friends and family gathered at the Mainline Bar and Grill, holding an auction to fundraise and help with medical bills. A gesture that means a lot to the Cassettes.
Super special to see how many people Brandon and Huxon have touched in their lives. It's awesome and it means so much to us.
Lisa Spriggs, the aunt, helped set up the event and got help from family members to bring the plan to fruition.
She has done so much work, has put countless of hours in, and we've all kind of helped to get donations and everything, and it's pretty awesome to see all the people that have donated and are willing to donate. It just means, like I said, so much that just everybody's willing to help.
In Downer, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
A fundraiser has been set up for the Cassette family. For more information, visit valleynewslive.com and click on this story. Meanwhile, just over 2.5 million people in the U.S. have received an extra dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The latest data from the CDC says more than 183 million Americans are now fully vaccinated, and 55% of those eligible for the vaccine have had at least one shot so far. But health officials are still concerned about the 70 million eligible people who have yet to roll up their sleeves. Pfizer is ready to ask the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for authorization to use its COVID-19 vaccine in children ages 5 through 11. Several studies in children aged 5 through 11 have shown a strong immune response to the vaccine, and 1/3 of a dose given to adults has produced the same protection as a full dose. Pfizer's CEO said today the company will submit the data within days.
I think we are going to submit this data pretty soon. It's a question of days, not weeks. And then it is up to FDA to be able to review the data and come to their conclusions.
If the FDA authorizes the vaccine, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will decide whether it should be recommended for younger children. Pfizer is separately evaluating and testing vaccines in children ages 2 through 5 and in the youngest ages 6 months to 2 years old. After requests from some of North Dakota's tribal nations, momentum is growing for subdividing a district for at least one reservation. A subdivision would split a legislative district in half. This would give voters only one House member to vote for rather than two. Having the districts be subdivided would make Native American residents roughly half of their subdivision and give them a chance at winning a seat in the legislature.
This situation is very positive, working together, making sure that the needs are met, but the tribe itself having that connection, that nexus, has always been willing to invest and move things forward as well.
Fox added that seeking a subdivision isn't a reflection on how they've been represented by their current representatives. Some members of the committee said if they didn't do the subdivision, the courts would do it following an assumed legal challenge. A spur-of-the-moment idea by a Minnesotan school superintendent is one way she's helping battle a school bus driver shortage. Beth Geis, the superintendent for the St. Francis School District, posted an image of herself after taking the test for a license to drive a school bus. She said the shortage of drivers made it crucial. Now her willingness to help has now inspired others to pitch in and get behind the wheel themselves.
We are just elated. I thought it was something kind of silly. You know, I was posing like a 16-year-old getting my license, and the effect was amazing. Our community said, let me help you.
According to GICE, several people have expressed interest in submitting an application for a license, including a board member and the director of finance within the school district. Meanwhile, the Biden White House's sweeping economic agenda appears to be in limbo, at least for now. Yesterday, the House Budget Committee voted to pass the $3.5 trillion spending bill out of committee, advancing it to the House floor. However, the proposal faces several roadblocks. John Lawrence reports.
A vote on a bipartisan infrastructure bill is still under construction. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who committed to a September 27th deadline last month, now says she won't bring it to the floor unless she has enough support.
You cannot choose the date. You have to go when you have the votes in a reasonable time, and we will.
While Republicans are against the infrastructure bill's price tag,
I will certainly be voting no if the Democrats insist on combining the debt ceiling increase or suspension with the continuing operations of the government.
There's also a stalemate within the Democratic Party between progressive and moderate members over the infrastructure bill's top-line figure and the programs included in the Biden-supported $3.5 trillion spending bill.
We are not going to leave anyone behind. We're not going to leave behind women who desperately need childcare. We're not going to leave behind taking on climate change and taking urgent action. We're not going to leave behind public housing. We're not going to leave behind immigrants.
Democrats have a paper-thin margin in both chambers and need almost full party support for the infrastructure bill to move forward.
After Republicans vote no, Chuck Schumer's going to do what he could have done months ago, what he could have done weeks ago, what he could do tomorrow, and that is he will amend the budget resolution so that Democrats can pass the debt ceiling all by themselves, and that's what should happen.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Later on Valley News Live at 10, the clash of tattoos and motorcycles come to the Veterans Memorial Arena. But up next, Summer has the latest details on our forecast.